I'm Michael Ramin. I'm your host for today from Sharestates, America's private lender. Today, we're going to be having a conversation with Nema Daghbandan, partner of Geraci LLP based out of Newport, California, and going over the trends in private real estate lending. So Nema, can you tell us a little bit about Geraci and then we can get started?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Michael. So Geraci LLP is the nation's largest private lending law firm. We have 22 attorneys, about 60 people in total. The only area in which we practice within is with private lending and representation of private lenders. We've got a corporate securities team that deals with the Reg D and PPM work. I'm on the loan compliance, lending compliance, loan document side of the business, and love the space, have a lot of fun in it. Like working with you guys over there at Sharestates, except for you. Everyone else there is fantastic to work with, but other than that, enjoying it. For those that don't know, Michael is now a new father of two. So congratulations there. Appreciate you jumping on there with me today.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Nema. And Nema is my third favorite partner at the firm. So just outside, a little more behind Sharestates, and we'll jump in. Sharestates is a direct private lender. We are national, lending on almost all products: 1 to 4 family fix and flip, mixed use and multifamily bridge, commercial properties from office to warehouse, and long-term financing on 1 to 4 family properties, mixed use and multifamily. One of the biggest things right now in our space is everybody wants to know about the trends in private lending. What's going on, what's changed in the last year from through COVID, through what we think is hopefully the end of COVID now, the programs, what people are buying, and everything like that. Nema, I know you guys do a good amount of the closings in the country, and wanted to come in on there. Just one quick thing for everyone watching right now, we're not doing a Q&A session during the conversation today, but there will be a thank you email going out after the session. You'll have my information and Nema's, so you'll be able to shoot us any questions, any comments, anything you want to go through further, or set up phone calls with us as well. So we'll jump into that after today's conversation. But Nema, if you could share some on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we, as Michael said, we both write loan documents here at the firm. We also license out our loan document generation system to private lenders as well. And so what that means, between a combination of our own in-house work and others using our loan document software, is we're sitting on a lot of private lender data from that. So trends that we've been watching are interest rates, both in the bridge product as well as on the 30-year term rental products, and kind of tracking those. And I'm actually curious to see whether you're seeing similar numbers as we're seeing, because this is national data, and a pretty good amount of it. So in aggregate of what we've been tracking, it's about $5.4 billion worth of loans in 2021. And some of the high level stats we'll kind of go through is in 2020, the average bridge rate nationally, and the way I will define a bridge loan is any loan with a duration of 36 months or less that was using interest only as the interest methodology there. It might have construction, didn't necessarily need to have construction to be part of the data set. And similarly, when I describe it as a rental loan, I describe it as any 1 to 4 family product. It could be a portfolio, it could be a single asset, but is a 30-year amortized product is kind of the way I track both trends. So on the bridge side, in 2020, we are seeing an average coupon of 10.54% nationally. And then in 2021, it went down about 100 basis points down to 9.55%. When you take it over the whole year. If you track it quarter by quarter, it's gone down precipitously. So currently, if you look at Q3, we're showing bridge on a national basis of 9.45%. When I've told people this, I'm curious to get your thoughts. A lot of bridge lenders, particularly conservative bridge lenders, will say is we're having a harder time getting that level of coupon. We're probably closer to the 8.5 or so to get quality loans. So what are you seeing on that side of it?
Yeah, I would have to agree with them. Rate-wise, seeing anywhere on bridge loans. So like, I split up bridge loans in different buckets because our firm is set up a little differently. We are doing the 1 to 4 family. In that 1 to 4 family space, you're still seeing that 7 to 9% range. Not much higher than that. Maybe in some areas, if it's less experience, if it's maybe a tougher area, we use a certain risk matrix to price. But then when you get onto mixed use and multifamily, I've seen those go so much lower. If people are using agency bridge, you've seen rates in high 3s, low 4s for a 2-year bridge loan. Seen products from other people in our space at like 5.5. We're a little bit higher, but we're also doing a different product there. We can do properties that are fully vacant, distressed, places like that. So our rates typically on the multifamily bridge, you'll see anywhere between like 7 and 9% also.
Right.
But that's where we've seen all them. But on the fix and flip, definitely lower. I think it's become more competitive. I think there's a lot more money in the space. I think there's been a lot of conversations where people are saying that they can't find much inventory in the market and they're having trouble finding properties, finding loans. I don't think that's the case. I think I have certain borrowers that are still buying 10 to 15, homes a month. I think a lot of times you have to change on how you're looking at the properties or how you're sourcing your deals. And I've seen people change that method and that product and how they've gotten maybe straight to the homeowner or the seller, as opposed to going through wholesalers and other methods that they were using. So definitely seeing a change.
That's what I was going to ask you as the follow-up there, which is really is what do you think is the sourcing methodology? Because that's what I've assumed as well, which is no expectation of waiting for an MLS or otherwise trying to compete within the open market, that it really is a direct to consumer type approach that's going to be successful, called the iBuyer or a mini iBuyer type approach of frictionless transaction. And I'll buy your house in its current state and you can walk away easily.
Yeah, absolutely. I think originally the fix and flip business was knocking on doors and walking by and seeing a distressed house, seeing overgrown hedges, just maybe a couple of key points that will open you up, maybe say, hey, I'm going to knock on this door, try to find the homeowner. And I think that's worked better. Wholesalers are great. They brought great deals to people on rentals and everything. But if you're adding in different layers and raising the cost of purchasing that home, on top of material costs right now. So windows, lumber, electric supplies, PVC, from anything to getting the actual supplies, and the higher cost, people have to go and find the rock bottom price to buy it, turn a profit. And that's where the cost of financing that we're discussing comes in. They no longer want to pay that 10, 12%. They don't want to pay 2-3 point origination. They don't want to pay attorneys $3,000 to close. Everybody, they start wanting to work on it, and you run into other metrics throughout the process through vendors, appraisals. Right now, you see nationally with how busy it is on conventional mortgages, on private lending with the rental loan. So anywhere from bridge to private loans, on the DSCR non-QM products, you're doing a portfolio loan of 50 homes. That it gives one appraiser or even 5 appraisers a lot of work. With a shortened with like a smaller list of appraisals, median age of appraisers being higher right now, wanting to do less work. I think it's made it a lot tougher, longer turnaround times, and in certain cases, cash has been king. If you don't need to get a valuation and you feel comfortable buying it, people are buying and closing the homes in cash and hoping to do either recapture their equity post close. So I've seen a mix of that.
No, that makes sense. And similarly in the rate environment, when we track it on the DSCR rental, I know you do a lot of that work as well.
Yeah.
When we were looking at the 2020 trend data, we saw an average national rate of 6.3%. And when we averaged it out for 2021, we saw 4.87%. So a significant drop year over year. And then it gets actually much more dramatic when you watch it quarter by quarter. So the year started in Q1, about 5.5% on average, 5.47% specifically. And now in Q3, it's 4.65% by average. What are you seeing on your end of that?
Similar, definitely similar to that trend. I think earlier in the year, we were at that 5.25 mark. And to use that same loan and same metric, let's just say if it was like a 70, 75, I think you're seeing two things that have changed. Definitely the rates have come down. So our rates are starting at like 3.5% on non-QM DSCR loans and going, up to 4.5%, 5%, depending on leverage, borrower's credit, different risk matrix that are throughout there, but you definitely see them drop. Our average rate is like low 4s now. So even a little lower than the national average that you're mentioning.
Yep.
I think one of the biggest changes you're seeing also is, and I think even earlier in the year it was a lot more expensive. So if you saw 5.25 in Q1, that might not have been for 75% on a cash out, where now you're doing 75% of the cash out at a lower rate. So it's even a less expensive product right now. Based on what I'm hearing from our capital markets team, they do see increases coming probably in the next 2 to 3 months to level it out a little bit. But right now it's the most popular product. And when it converted it into going to mixed use and multifamily, with these rates, it started competing with community banks and other banks.
Right.
sometimes an easier process. So you're looking at a
Right.
bar
I
track
was going to
record.
ask you any kind of idea in terms of the rough spread between, a rate that you'd offer at Sharestates and let's say, a Fannie or Freddie product at this point on the rental.
On the rental, I mean, if I'm giving you 4% on a loan interest only for 7 years,
Yeah.
you might have a lower payment than having
Right.
P&I 3.5.
Right.
So a lot of people prefer that. It really depends on what your business model is. If you're going interest only, you're cashing out monthly. For some people, that's their business plan, and they're looking to sell or refinance again in
Right.
7 or 10 years. So for them, it doesn't make a difference. Um, I've seen that a lot on mixed use and multifamily. If you finished recently like a heavy rehab project or fully stabilizing a product, or getting 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 the rents fixed and getting the tenants, replacing your tenants, and you maybe did not want to go to an agency loan. I've seen borrowers come to us and do, a 5-year interest only product for 4.5%, figuring they have a 3-year prepay. And in 3 years, they'll go and cash out again at a much higher number and a higher lock-in, and a longer lock-in. So I've seen people use that methodology on using these rental loans. I think it's smart. I think it's a good way to do the business. And with the low rates, I've seen a lot of people cashing out. So a lot of people in the
Right.
space have been cashing out. And I'm seeing those same people that are cashing out on their portfolios come back a week later with contracts saying, hey, I want to buy these 5 more or 10 more. So
Right.
definitely. That.
Would you say that the general play right now from an investor standpoint is really build to hold rather than build to sell at this juncture?
I've seen a lot more of that. Even
Yeah.
borrowers that have been taking bridge loans from us. So
Yeah.
even if they're taking bridge, most of them are renting it afterwards. Some of them are selling it, depending on the product.
Right.
I've seen also a lot, and it's picked up in this space, is Airbnb, so long short-term rentals.
Right.
That's picked up like a tremendous amount. Uh, People are very big on Airbnb, places you wouldn't expect. So Atlantic City may be more popular for the hotels back. It's become popular outside the hotels for Airbnbs. So whether it's a friend's weekend, a bachelor party, couples getting together, they're actually going to the Airbnb as opposed to the hotel, kind of having access to more house. And I don't know if it's a COVID effect where people want, to have their own space and privacy, or if it's something else, but it's picked up more than I've ever seen it. You see in other places too. So Florida's been popular.
Yep.
You see it with luxury homes. So Hamptons, so it's been popular, Hamptons, Greenwich, and California, very big. And sometimes you see outside of maybe not Airbnb, they'll do a full-term lease to a hospitality company that's going to lease out their home for them. So I've seen a mix of that in the space, and it's been pretty popular around the country.
Right. No, it makes sense. Particularly with international travel still somewhat hampered by a lot of people. I think there was a big, I need to get out, right? and I want to get out, and also have the control over the entire process, right? So
Yeah.
Airbnb is an attractive product in that sense. From a geography perspective, what do we've got a few trends that we watch as well on that side of it. Is there, do you see any sort of geographic trend that's visible? From ours, we see, being in California, unsurprisingly, California is the biggest demographic market we see. And then followed by Texas, Florida, Illinois, and Massachusetts, round out the top 5 in terms of just sheer volume, at least on the bridge side for what we see.
Yeah. So Florida that you mentioned, probably our biggest jump. We had, believe it or not, a lot of our borrowers actually moved to Florida. So during the process, they moved to Florida. So a big jump. And I would say seen a big increase in Florida from either our broker clients or direct borrowers. Outside of that, definitely down south. So Carolinas, I know it's not mentioned directly, what you said, but Carolinas, Tennessee, so Memphis, Nashville, people have been priced out for a bit, but you're seeing the rental come back there. Airbnb in Nashville is very big. And then Texas you can always tell by turnaround time on appraisals. If you order an appraisal in Texas right now, it's 30 days. So
Crazy.
Texas. And California, you mentioned first. We've been licensed there for some time. We're primarily East Coast, but we've definitely seen a pickup in our volume in California the last 3-4 months. Very on the rental product though over there. On the bridge side, very popular. I've been seeing garden style apartments. So almost anywhere in the country, but down south has been popular. So again, Tennessee, Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, and people just revitalizing an old property that was maybe in a C class and raising the rents. So taking it from like a C to a B to an A minus, raising the rents and just updating the property and properly managing it. I think it's been a big spot where old management companies didn't have either the technology or the grounds to kind of manage it properly.
Right.
And you see a big difference with people using that.
That's an interesting point. And question for you: do you think it's the same borrowing base? So is it just a person who happened to do fairly well in the SFR space and now says, well, I've got a portfolio of 10 properties, it's worked out well. Maybe I step up a little bit and get a 15 door or 20 door and kind of see if I can manage this in a similar capacity, or is it just an entirely different investor that's looking at this?
I'm seeing both. So you are seeing the single family investor graduating, and they usually slowly move up. So they'll go to like a 5-unit multifamily,
Mm-hmm.
then to a 10 to a 20. But I've also seen the guys that maybe it was a New York fund that was doing New York multifamily, and they use their technology, they use data. I think that's become a lot bigger in this market. So they'll look in areas where they'll see there's a need for housing, and look for housing, look at data, look at where rents are, where they could be increased. And I've seen a big data play in a lot of this, where people are looking in certain markets that have a need for housing, and they find the old housing and kind of fix it up or build or look for land to kind of fill in.
One of the things that I think, for anybody who's been in the industry, or at least has been going to the conferences for the past year or so, rental, and really DSCR rental is the big buzzword in terms of product differentiation, particularly with just low inventory, low sales. And so oftentimes I think that there's either over promotion or under promotion. So if you talk to a lot of the California bridge guys, like they're just, oh, we don't do rental loans, we don't have the investor base, and they just sit there unaware that this product exists and have 0% of DSCR rentals. And then you've got companies who are 90% of DSCR rental because they're just saying, look, bridge is just too discretionary, too difficult to scale. It's not what we do. When we've been tracking internally about the volume on either side of it, it seems to skew a little bit more towards rental now. So in 2020, just by sheer number of transactions, 76% of them for us were bridge, 24% rental, or at least term rental. And then in 2021, that 76% for the bridge went down to 68%. So 8 percentage point switch over, creating 32%. So almost a third of the volume now being term rental. What are you seeing, at least for yourself?
Very similar, especially earlier in the year. I think when the rates started dropping, a lot of people, the non-QM, the DSCR was a very hot product, still is. We had like a 50-50 split for the last couple of months, but now it's kind of the bridge is picking up again. So it's increasing on that end. You're seeing a lot more, and a lot of the people that we work with that are cashing out are now coming back with contracts. So that I finally found this home, I found this property, and looking to move forward. So I've seen bridge balance out. I also think it's very tough with the bridge market. There's so many different levels. So like how we mentioned before, there's like the agency bridge, there's a private lender bridge, there's a family office bridge, there's true hard money where someone will give you money sight unseen because they know you. So we're seeing a lot of different pockets out there, and people are using, they're using different avenues. For the non-QM, it's kind of like a more standard product, so everyone's is the same. Everyone's usually essentially following the same guidelines, just how fast you can sometimes close, how good of a rate you get, how good of a process you can give the borrower, and how good of an attorney you have to. I mean, it sounds crazy, but people don't realize, like, doing a 20 property rental loan, if it's not all in the same entity, the attorney is very important in putting it together. There's other parts also. I mean, you guys have helped us on massive commercial loans. So you see that also where it comes in. We got all the estoppels. You're dealing with all the commercial tenants and all that. So I think a lot of people forget how much the lender's great, but how much the vendors help them in the process, whether it's the appraiser, the attorneys, everything. So I think a lot of that is important, and creating a good support system for your lending platform to make sure your borrower, not only gets a good loan and good product and gets the servicing side and doing well with it. You always want to see them succeed in our business, especially. We're heavily focused on repeat borrowers, so all that's pretty important.
Absolutely. One of the interesting things I think this year as well was watching kind of the M&A activity within our space. I think, for years people expected something to happen, and then you had the Genesis Goldman Sachs thing, And it was like, oh, look, Wall Street's finally interested. They're genuinely interested. They're looking at equity. It's not just a loan purchase downstream effect. And I think we started seeing an expectation that this would happen more. And then crickets, right? Just nothing happened for years. And it seemed like, okay, well, and then there was speculation, oh, well, did Goldman regret what they did over at Genesis? It wasn't, most people, when you would ask in the private lending world, they would not say that their biggest competitor was Genesis. And many said, I've never come up against them, never bid against them. But in fact, lending home is my bigger challenge on the bridge side, at least. And so it was interesting to kind of see what would happen there. But then this year, we had a lot of activity, right? We had, Lima One, and MFA was a big buyer of Lima One's loans. And so, if you're going to be the buyer of their product, might as well buy the company itself that generates the product, right? Good market share play for them. We saw Civic, similar situation. They had lots of facilities with Pacific Enterprise Bank. Sure enough, they came back and said, instead of just lending you money, why don't we own your company? And then Genesis obviously retraded this year, went to New Res, and that one's very interesting, right? New Res is a residential consumer mortgage shop, right, at the end of the day. And so kind of a diversification play. And then the one that happened a month ago, probably the biggest news in our space for this year, was Anchor going to Pretium. And the interesting thing on this side of it was as a law firm, I had no idea who Pretium was, because I work with private lenders. I don't know anything about the institutional home buying business. It's not my radar. But in this year alone, I've had now 3 clients who are all owned by Pretium. And because the first one says like, oh, we're a Pretium backed company. I was like, great. Am I supposed to know what that means? Like, what do you want me to do with this piece of information? But it's interesting now, right? That's 3 large companies, and 2 of the 3 are not really in our space, but are moving into our space. And obviously Anchors was and has been a large company in the space for some time. So, obviously you probably can't tell me what's happening at Sharestates, but I'm assuming there's probably people, saying hello to you every now and again, and seeing if they can participate more heavily with your company.
Yeah, we've definitely seen it over the years, and still consistently. We finally, not finally, man, it was a big milestone for us. We just broke 3 billion in originations as a company.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So on the private lending side, I think it's a big number. I think it's higher than some of like the capital partners have even, lent out. So you definitely seen that. A lot of people were wondering if this was like a product and a market sector that was going to stay and keep growing. I do think it is. I think it's become competitive with regular bank rates, conventional bank rates, on that end. Even on the bridge side, I mean, we have products that we're working on with bridge to come out also on those lower spectrum rates for different kind of properties. So I definitely see where you're going with this, and definitely mentioning, yeah, I do see the bigger players coming more into the space, and you've seen the larger investment banks in the last couple of years. You mentioned Goldman, so the Goldman Morgans of the world have all gotten into this space. And when you first mentioned it to them and met with them 5 or 6 years ago, it was like, no, we're not getting into hard money. We're not getting into bridge lending. Hard money had a bad name and a bad connotation.
Right.
Over the years, people are like, oh, you're a hard money lender. And no one even looks into it. It got a bad name, but it got the name hard money because it was just a loan on a hard asset. You weren't doing it based on anything else but the asset. Over years, it became, oh, he's a hard money lender trying to take my property. Not a great thing. So you hear all these other terms, loan to own. I think it's moved more into like private lending industry, or the words bridge lending have been used, private lending, and I think it's a different market. I don't think the lenders are trying to take people's properties anymore. I think it's become more of a relationship business. It's a little different, and I think now, as you mentioned, these larger institutions now want to be a part of that, and I do see that growing a lot more in the next. I would say even in the next year. As bank rates go up, I think this is going to become even a lot more popular. It's quicker underwriting. There's a lot more technology. I feel like in this space, we use our own proprietary technology. If you're a repeat borrower and you come to a loan to us, I mean, I just need the information on a new property. I know everything about you. Everything's saved. It transfers over. I don't need to do that again. So I think it's a lot easier. I think the tech space. I mean, we're just, I guess, different in this space, and I think people like it.
Right. And another thing, we're talking about Goldman and Morgan. what you're seeing a lot in this space right now is the securitization of both the rental products as well as the bridge products, and a really active marketplace that exists there as well. So, many people know as well as Nomura is very active in our space right now. And so you're starting to see these direct, and what's probably more interesting, I think, was probably the first company I ever saw do this was Lending Home, when they went direct to securitization themselves, right? They were the actual issuer. But now, I mean, just in this year alone, you've got Turac, Rock, Corvest, Lending Home, and you've got multiple companies, all just going straight to market with their own securitizations, which is just incredible to see the level of sophistication into the space. And then on the rental loan side of it, you've got Lima One and Constructive, who just kind of just every month or so, you're just seeing another securitization come out with them. What is your take on that, right? Because securitization is very much an interesting marketplace, because I don't know if y'all remember this thing really, really long time ago, called March of 2020, in which the securitization markets weren't really working. What's your thought?
So I think as long as the product is there, it's great. You'll see in certain places they couldn't fill the securitizations, right? And they just lowered the rates like excessively just to fill it up,
right,
and to hit minimum. Everything was going out the minimum note rate. So I think it's great to a certain point, especially right now. The money's in the market. You have a shortage of housing. You have everything else where everyone needs these products. So I think it's great as long as the product's there. It just like anything else, is always a race to a bottom, and hopefully it doesn't get to the bottom. We always mention everyone comes in. We see competing term sheets every day. Oh, this guy's offering me 100% less, like 100 basis points lower. I'm like, can I see the full term sheet? Like, it's not apples to apples. It's
right.
Everyone's offering something a little different. But I do think as right now, there is a need for the product. I think the securitizations are great. I mean, what's your take on it? You guys you're seeing probably close to like 1,000 closings a month or more.
Right.
From where it was in March, you went from like, same thing. It was like 1,000 to 0 real quick.
Yeah, real quick.
You were canceling scheduling, so it was like down to negative. Like I had one.
Yeah, there was no place to put that loan.
Yeah, there was everything shut down. So
right.
On your end, like how do you guys see it right now?
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting question. I think although memories are short to some degree, I don't know of any responsible aggregator who is not diversifying from the securitization approach. They're saying, look, it's a great way to bring down yield. It's a great way to stay competitive. It's a great way to access markets and to churn capital very quickly and efficiently. But ultimately, it can't be the only way. We can't have our entire business model premised upon a healthy securitization model existing in the background. And so it's now also diversification of capital markets partners as well, where it's saying as well, who else would be interested in holding this on their balance sheet and maybe offloading at a later time. So this looking into life insurance companies and other, big balance sheets that want yield and want to hold product, and having different capital relationships. I think everyone, in June of last year said, well, I don't ever want to be in a position where I was relying upon one capital source to get me through this. And so diversification of capital, and not necessarily having to use them today, but they're really at least exploring who you're going to be able to work with, and the status of those relationships. I'm sure that's something you guys had to work with as well in terms of figuring out who do we want to work with and why.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely changed some relationships. We've always done, worked a little differently. We still have our crowdfunding component. We never took that away. People still invest in our platform, opens us up to different products. But yeah, diversification has always been important. Different products, and you also want to grow with your borrowers. I think it's most important. Growing with your investor is always great, but if you spend 10 years cultivating a fix and flip relationship, and that guy's now going fix and hold, and you can't do his rental loans, you spend 5-10 years, and you're in the same business. I mean, we've been to dinners together, drinks together. You spend those nights out with someone, and then they moved on because you can't support their business anymore. It's tough.
Right. No,
so
100%.
We had some fun dinners, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, word to the wise is do not take Michael out for drinks. He will win.
All right.
I won't.
All right. Hey, Anthony, welcome back.
Hey guys, you guys were fantastic.
All right.
Oh, it's good. I was wondering what happened to hard money lenders, Mike. That was interesting. I like how you cleared that up. That was good.
I think it's
Very
important. A lot of people, you still hear the term used a lot. There's
Yeah.
websites that use it
Yeah.
as directories, but it's people have been trying to take out the word for years. The word itself isn't a bad word. It's just
Yes, I know it comes across a little. It does, like they're taking away my property. I know, but it's so true. You guys, a lot of the companies now, bridge and flip. It's much better name.
Yeah.
You guys are fantastic. Really learned a lot. I really want to thank you. Once again, Michael's firm will be sending out a thank you letter with a nice video as well. So on that thank you letter, you can reach Michael, and you can also reach Nema and continue your conversations with them. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Mike.
Michael.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Anthony.
Nema.
Take care.
Bye-bye,
everyone.
guys.
Bye.